Skill 5 is all about hems. For this assignment, we're going to do 3 different hem samples. The first one is a double turned hem. We'll use our Juki for that. The second is a blind hem. We'll use our industrial blind hemmer in the back, that green machine. Our third one is going to be a blind hem by hand. We're going to use our hands to make that happen. This is what you're going to need to complete the skill assignment. You need 3 fabric swatches that are each 5 by 10, and you're going to want to serge one long edge of each of them. You're going to need a hand sewing needle with some thread, your thread snips, and a seam gauge. Let's get started with our double turned hem. So you know how we have seam allowances in sewing, right? We also have hem allowances. So a hem allowance is how much do we intend to turn up the fabric to help us finish the bottom hem of a garment. For this skill assignment, our hem allowance is going to be 1 inch. So that means that's the amount that we're going to ultimately turn up. And our finished edge will be 1 inch from the edge of our swatch. All right, so for our double turned hem, it's pretty simple. We are going to double turn our fabric and then stitch it down to help us finish the hem of our swatch, okay? Double turning fabric is a really great way to get that raw edge enclosed within itself. And then when you stitch it down, it's completely enclosed and you have a nice clean finish. So our hem allowance is 1 inch total, which means if we're double turning it, we're going to turn it to the wrong side 1/2 inch, press it, and then we're going to turn it to the wrong side 1/2 inch again and press it. You are going to utilize your seam gauge to do that by setting your little slidey marker at 1/2 inch. You are going to just kind of fold your fabric up and make sure you have it at 1/2 inch and press it all the way across. Once you have that nice and pressed and creased, do it again, and then meet me over at the sewing machine. Here is what it should look like after you have your double turned hem pressed. Nice and even, consistent width to it. The next step is we're just gonna stitch this down to kind of enclose that hem and finish it off. What we want to do is, this is the finished edge of our hem, and this I'm calling sort of the upper folded edge of our hem. What I want you to do is I want you to edge stitch near this upper folded edge. And the way you're going to do that is to align this fold with the inside of one of these toes on your presser foot, okay? So I have my hem on the right side. So I am going to align that fold with the inside edge of this left toe. That's gonna help me get a nice, clean edge stitch that is a consistent distance from that folded edge. I like my edge stitching to be really close to folded edges. It just looks nicer and cleaner. Again, this is a plain seam, so we're just gonna back stitch. Make sure you're edge stitching really nicely and then back stitch at the end. The whole time you're doing this, you can either pin your hem in place or just make sure that it stays laying how you have it pressed with the creases. You definitely want to make sure that you caught that folded edge the entire way down. And when you flip it over, it's a pretty consistent distance from that folded edge. Now go press this, and then I'll show you the results. Here's what you should have for your finished double turned hem. Nice consistent stitching, back stitch at the beginning and the end. When you flip it over, you should definitely see that you have caught that folded edge and your stitching is nice and clean. And all the raw edges on this side are enclosed. Let's move on to our blind hem on the industrial machine. For our industrial blind hem, what we're gonna do is take the serged edge of our swatch and we're gonna turn it to the wrong side 1 inch and press it. Remember, our hem allowance is 1 inch, and we are not double turning this one, we're just single turning it. So make sure you measure up 1 inch, give it a good press, and then I will meet you over at the industrial machine. Hey, so yeah, the camera won't pan over to our little green industrial blind hammer back here, so I don't know what to tell you. You should probably be in class for my live demonstration, and I'll show you there. Let's work on our blind hem by hand. So you're gonna need your swatch. You're gonna take your swatch, and on the serged side, I pressed up my serged edge 1 inch, okay? Since that's our total hem allowance, right? Pressed it up 1 inch all the way across. Then what I did is I took my serging and I just tucked it in and tucked it under and pressed it again. So then the width of your hem will end up being about 3/4 of an inch, but you still know that you've pressed up that 1 inch total, okay? So you're gonna have a nice folded creased edge down here and a nice folded creased edge up here, and your serging is enclosed inside. Next, I want you to take a hand sewing needle. That is a needle that has pokey side and then one side has an eye in it. I'm gonna take a length of string, it's about the length of my arm. And I'm going to thread the eye of my needle. Once your needle is threaded, I want you to bring both of your thread tails together. So you have both of your thread tails on one side and then your needle is on the other. And you are going to tie a double knot. There's many ways to do this. Oh my gosh. I used to show like a really difficult way where you wrap it around the needle, but the easiest way I found to show people is just create a loop in the thread, put your tails through the loop, and pull tight, and you'll tie a knot. Then you have to do it again, and you just really try to shimmy that knot so it gets right on top of the first one, and then you'll kind of have a double knot tied. And this knot is going to mimic, you can do it a third time if you need to. This knot is going to take the place of back stitching that we do like when we're using our machine. The knot helps kind of stabilize the stitching on one side. All right, now that you've got your thread knotted, your needle is on one side, you can cut those thread tails a little bit short. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm left-handed, and so I'm going to be working from the left to the right. If you're right-handed, you're probably going to be working from the right to the left. Doesn't matter, but just do what I do. So as I'm showing you this hand sewing technique, what I am going to talk about is, you'll notice we have our hem here pressed up. This folded edge right here, I'm going to call that the hem side. And then this flat part of the swatch over here, I'm going to call that the skirt side, so to say. And what we're mimicking is just doing a blind hem on a skirt, okay? And again, this is a blind hem, which means it's fairly invisible from the right side of the garment once we're done. Now I'm using neon orange thread, so you might be able to see it a little bit, but ultimately you want it to be blind from the right side of the garment and mostly blind from the wrong side. The first step is to stabilize our knot into our garment. So I am going to stick my needle up under the hem, the fold of that hem, and I'm going to pull it tight. The knot should stay in there. Now the next step I'm going to do is I am going to jump right where my thread comes out of my hem. I'm going to jump over to my skirt side with my needle and take a really tiny stitch. And I am talking really tiny. You'll see that I only have like 1 or 2 threads that I've caught. And I'm going to pull it tight. Now, right where my thread comes out on my skirt side, I'm going to jump my needle over to my hem side, and I am going to slide my needle under that fold about 3/8 of an inch. So each time you're putting your needle into the hem side, you're trying to advance your stitch forward, okay? This is sort of your stitch length. And I'm doing about 3/8 of an inch. We're gonna keep repeating that back and forth. So right where your thread comes out of your hem side, jump your needle over to your skirt side and grab just 1 or 2 stitches, okay? Very few stitches. That's what's gonna help it stay blind from the right side. And then you're gonna pull it tight. I'm gonna zoom you in and I'm gonna continue doing this.
Hopefully you'll
All right, so our thread is coming out of our skirt side, right across from that on our hem side. I'm going to stick my needle in that fold and advance it forward about 3/8 of an inch. Eek, it's always getting caught. Then right where my thread comes out there, I'm gonna go across to my skirt side and just pick up 1 or 2 threads. That's it. Seriously, very few, okay? 1 or 2 threads, pull it through. Right where it comes out, we're gonna go straight across to that hem side and advance our needle through the fold of the hem about 3/8 of an inch. And again, from the fold, go straight over to the skirt side and pick up 1 or 2 stitches. That's it. And pull it tight. So hopefully you can start seeing this forming. And from the wrong side, it is mostly blind. From the right side, it should be mostly blind as well. You might just see little tiny tick marks. Now, obviously you'd normally do this in matching thread color, so you wouldn't actually see those tick marks. All right, I'm gonna speed up the video so you can watch, but ultimately you're advancing your needle forward in the hem side, going straight over to the skirt side, picking up 1 or 2 threads, and then advancing your needle forward in the hem side again, okay? Let's keep it up. I want to stop for a minute and let you know that as you're going, if you pull this really tight, it can like bunch up and get really tight tension. So you constantly be wanting to be like releasing that tension and letting it be smooth. Blind hems are not for structure or stability to hold things together. They're really just to keep this fabric from falling down, okay? So it doesn't have to be super tight tension at all. You can like release that so it won't create tight little puckers on the right side. All right, I'm gonna keep going. And then once I get to the end, I'll show you how to tie a knot, which will mimic the back stitch that you do at the end. So once you've come to the end of your swatch, you've got it all sewn, what I want you to do is we're gonna tie a knot. And the way we're gonna do this is right where your thread comes out of your project, I want you to take a small stitch, just a tiny little stitch, and pull it through, but don't pull it all the way. I want you to leave a bit of a loop here. And you're going to send your needle through the loop and then pull it really tight, and that's going to tie a knot. I like to do that twice just to tie a double knot. You technically probably want more thread tails than I have, but this is what I ended up with. So again, take a little tiny stitch where your thread comes out of your project. Instead of pulling it tight, leave a little loop and send your needle through the loop and then pull it tight. That will create a knot right there, which is in place of the back stitch that we normally do. So you have a knot here, you've blind hemmed all the way across, and you have a knot over here. To hide my thread tails in my project, I just like to take and push my needle through my hem a little ways and then cut off my tails. And it's nice and clean. So go press this and then we'll see what it looks like. So once you've gotten it pressed, it should look really mostly blind from the wrong side. You can still see a few of my stitches. And then from the right side, it should also look mostly blind. You'll notice tick marks every time you caught a few little threads, but if you use matching thread, it should be really clean and blind, so to say. So that is our blind hem by hand. Once you have all 3 of your blind hem samples completed, fill out a skills sample backing paper for each of them and put them in a clear sheet protector, and you can hand them in to me.